Hey, did you know that conservation officers are killing the coyotes that live at Stanley Park? My name is Lonnie and I'm an almost graduate from UBC majoring in applied animal biology. I spent a lot of time this past year studying coyotes for a thesis project I've been working on, but I'm definitely far from a coyote expert. However, all the information that I'll be covering in this brief video is based off of findings and research done by actual professionals. So if you don't trust me, which is fair, please feel free to fact check me by taking a look at the references that I've included at the end of this video. On July 15th and 16th of this year, conservation officers killed 4 coyotes at Stanley Park in response to the growing number of attacks that have occurred since December of 2020. Don't get me wrong, I totally understand the logic behind this decision. Get rid of the coyotes, get rid of the threat of the attacks. On top of that, I understand that conservation officers are charged with protecting the safety of the public, and from that perspective, it makes sense that they would attempt to remove the aggressive coyotes. The problem, however, is that culling predators has been proven time and time again to be a pretty ineffective solution. Before I get into that though, it's important to note that the killings that took place at Stanley Park weren't even targeting specific individuals. According to statements made by the conservation officers, one of the animals was found close to the site where an attack happened. A huge chunk of my thesis project was spent looking at images from camera traps set up around Stanley Park. There's a timestamp on every single image, and within one single night, several coyotes will pass through the exact same area. While they were targeting coyotes within a specific area of Stanley Park, they weren't actually targeting a specific individual. This, in combination with the fact that they were using leg traps, means that they were indiscriminately killing animals. Alright, back to the main point of this whole spiel. Culling is an ineffective method of dealing with these aggressive interactions. Several studies have shown that culling coyotes or other predators as a form of population control has been unsuccessful and in many cases results in the opposite effect. Post-cull, coyotes and other mesopredators have demonstrated 2 forms of retaliation. 1, compensatory reproduction, and 2, compensatory immigration. Compensatory reproduction refers to the observed event where, in response to a lowered population, females will demonstrate a higher reproductive output. This ultimately means a larger population of coyotes in the long run. Similarly, compensatory immigration refers to the fact that as soon as an area is cleared of an individual, it is almost immediately re-inhabited by a neighboring individual. In summary, the current method of killing coyotes at Stanley Park is an ineffective solution because 1, they're not targeting specific individual coyotes that have shown themselves to be aggressive, rather they're targeting specific areas. 2, coyotes are too adaptable to their surroundings. And 3, their population will almost guaranteed bounce back, whether that be through compensatory reproduction or immigration. Okay, so say the conservation officers do successfully remove the population of coyotes from Stanley Park, and by some miracle it's not replaced by neighboring coyotes. What happens next? Well, despite coyotes only inhabiting Vancouver since the 80s, our ecosystem has already adapted to their presence. Coyotes, either through the direct predation of or through the competition of resources, control the population of other small predators such as foxes, raccoons, and skunks. This is what is called a top-down effect. Coyotes are higher up in the food chain and consequently have an effect on the population numbers of those beneath them. Essentially, removing coyotes from this ecosystem will upset its balance by causing a rise in population of other species of mesopredators and a consequential decrease in the populations of various bird species and rodents. Take California and Texas, for example. Both states underwent a coyote cull, and both had an increase in the population of other mesopredators. California suffered a significant loss of their population and diversity of bird species, and Texas had a lower diversity of rodent species. Okay, so at this point, I'm hoping I've been able to communicate 2 ideas so far. 1, culling is not the solution to the aggressive interactions we're seeing at Stanley Park, and 2, coyotes play an essential role in maintaining the balance of our ecosystem. So this all brings me to the final point I want to make. Killing these coyotes doesn't solve the issue of why we are noticing an increase in aggressive interactions. Studies have shown that there is a correlation between aggressive behaviors in coyotes and the occurrence of wildlife feeding by humans. By feeding coyotes or any other type of wildlife, you're habituating them to the presence of humans and essentially training them to expect food from us. While that may seem harmless in the case of other animals like squirrels or birds, you're likely contributing to the rise in their population, which subsequently will increase the population of coyotes in the area too. In the specific case of coyotes, however, they'll be more likely to approach us and consequently more likely to engage in aggressive interactions if they're not being given what they're expecting. So what should you do if you run into a coyote? Don't run away, and definitely don't try and pet it. Instead, haze the coyote. Stand your ground, wave your arms, make a lot of noise, and try and give it space. Consider carrying dog deterrent, bear spray, and air horn, anything that gives you a secondary line of defense in the off chance you run into an aggressive individual that isn't deterred by the hazing process. To avoid running into coyotes altogether, avoid using the parks alone at dawn or dusk while these attacks are still happening. Always be aware of your surroundings and, if possible, stay in larger groups of people. And please properly dispose of your food and garbage. Finally, it would mean a lot to me and the coyotes if you would sign the petition that I started. First and foremost, it's directed at the BC Conservation Officers Service to urge them to stop indiscriminately killing coyotes at Stanley Park and instead actively work with wildlife biologists, coyote experts, and the like to ensure that aggressive individuals are identified. Secondly, it's to put pressure on the Vancouver Board of Parks and Recreation, as well as the City of Vancouver, to enforce BC Wildlife Act 1, Section 33.1, that states that a person cannot intentionally feed dangerous wildlife. Lastly, it's to encourage the City of Vancouver to pass a municipal bylaw that directly prohibits the feeding of wildlife within park areas and station someone at Stanley Park that has the authority to ticket people found violating this bylaw. It'll take 2 minutes to fill out, and it could literally save Vancouver's population of coyotes. That's it for now. Thank you so much for listening to my rant and taking the time to learn about Vancouver's coyotes. If you feel compelled to help save their population as well as protect Vancouver's biodiversity, please sign the petition. And if you want to encourage others to learn more about this situation, please feel free to share this video.